probably one of the most dangerous things you could possibly say to a busy mum who is working full time, juggling 2 kids. Oh, you've just got to make time for 3 workouts a week and cooking from scratch. She is just going to be like, are you freaking kidding me?
It's the alternative. The alternative is we don't prioritise our health at all and things will get harder and get worse. And there is a different way.
78% of mothers put themselves last on the household priority lists, which doesn't surprise me.
We used to say something is better than nothing. You know what? Last week I did nothing and this week I got 4 10-minute walks in. You've got to start building those mini wins.
For most people, the struggle is the planning, the meal prepping. What meals am I going to make that my kids will also eat? We make 33 to 35,000 decisions a day. No wonder we get decision fatigue.
Your health does matter. You don't want to be at zero. If you could start to move towards somebody that has more energy, you will feel like you have more time. You do have the power to do that. The best advice I could give to people is just... Hi, I'm Jamie.
And I'm Stacey.
And this is the Body Smart Podcast.
And we are women's weight loss experts on a mission to empower you to feel permanently in control of your weight and your health. And this is actually a special episode for all you mums out there, because I know firsthand doing that is not that easy when you've got a small person to look after. And actually, whether your kids are 2 or 12, it's still a case of juggling a million things, and often you're the last thing on the priority list. So with that in mind, I actually found a stat that says that 78% of mothers put themselves last on the household priority lists, which doesn't surprise me, especially talking to all of our clients, ladies in the inbox. It's something we hear all the time, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's you get it. Like you need to create a bit of order in other parts of your life, so you kind of just get to the bottom of that list. But then you end up breaking, or you end up gaining loads of weight, and it affects your mental health. So just like the way you're trying to create, I guess, order in the household and for everyone else, like you actually need to be prioritizing that little bit of time for yourself so you can create a bit of, I guess, peace and order in your mind too.
Yeah. And it is particularly their health that 78% of mothers struggle to prioritize. So I think often we make me time in inverted commas, as in like sitting in front of the TV once they've gone to bed, or, you know, like we can carve out bits of time that are like our sanity time maybe, but actually taking action on your health feels like a whole different thing, or like a bigger hurdle. But what we want to talk about today is like, what are the struggles that stop that 78% of women doing even just something, these little bits that can add up to help their health be in a better place?
A huge one's got to be, I think, expectations of what the new normal now looks like. So if you were somebody that exercised and went to classes and done 60-minute sessions 4 times a week, and you're like, oh, that's what I need to do to get back to, you know, doing my fitness regime, and that now needs to change. Like, oh, I can't possibly fit that in. There's a drive to the gym. I've got to book the class in. I don't know if the baby's going to need feeding at that time. You know, there's just so many other things to take into account. So if your expectation is it needs to go back to how it was, you can really feel like at a deficit of like, well, that's not possible anymore. So having a more open mindset to be like, hey, you know, what things are going to need to look like now is going to need to be a lot different. I know that's something that's even changed for you personally.
Definitely. And I think if you speak to any of our coaches that are mums, they would have the same story of, you know, we're all doing this job because we know how good exercise makes us feel and we've got a real passion for it and we love doing it. And then kids come along and you can't do the thing that made you feel really good. And it's really, really hard. And we did talk about that when we had Coach Anna on the podcast, and she shared, you know, the exact same struggle that I had, where that was one of her coping mechanisms and one of the things that kept her sane. But now it's suddenly something that you can't just go and spend an hour and a half on yourself every day doing that. So you do have to find different ways to fit fitness into your life. And it can feel like you're not doing enough. Yeah. And a lot of the time, the ladies that we work with, because everything else in your life you do to 100%, like you're excelling in your career, you're a brilliant mum, you're an excellent partner, you're like everybody's friend that they turn to for everything. And so if you're not being the best at fitness, it feels like you're failing. But what I really want to nail home today is if you can do anything, if your baseline at the moment is 0, you're doing better. And that's the goal at the moment. And that doesn't matter whether you are like, you've got a newborn or you've got a 10-year-old, because sometimes it can take literally a decade to get out of that rut of my life has changed. I don't even know how to like readjust and get myself back on the path where I am a priority again. And we even have ladies join us who've like waited till their kids leave home, don't they?
Yeah, which is, I mean, like you even said, it takes a decade or till kids leave home. It's an exceptionally long amount of time to sacrifice you and your health. And there is a different way, you know what I mean? There is another way where you can start to, you know, we used to saying like something is better than nothing a lot of the times. And that is true. You know, if you're like not going for a walk at all, but then go for a 10-minute walk, like something is better than nothing. And then it's just, again, trying to find those small opportunities where you can get something done. And it is tough, you know what I mean? Sometimes you are just going to be so exhausted at the idea of even going for a 10-minute walk. You're just like, I just want to lie down or sit down. But, you know, you've got to start building those like mini victories and mini wins and just be like, you know what? Last week I did nothing, and this week I got 4 10-minute walks in, you know, and next week, you know what, I'm going to throw some squats in at the end of that and a couple of push-ups. And it's just, you can just start to build or building blocks on top of that and build that muscle of consistency. But also, it's just a very new normal. And getting used to that takes time, as all things do with change.
And actually, that's whether you're a mum or not. Like, if you're embarking on this health journey, we always use that same motto of something is better than nothing, because this perfectionist mindset of it has to be an hour, or I have to hit 10,000 steps, or I have to break a sweat for it to count. It's just BS.
Yeah.
And actually, the other day, I've got like a step goal at the moment because I'm trying to stay active. I realised that I had fallen into that trap of just like dropping my son off at nursery, come home, work, pick him up, do jobs around the house, go to bed. And I did do a workout, but that was like 45 minutes and there's not a massive amount of steps there. So my steps had dropped massively. So it was like 7 o'clock at night and I was like, oh, I'm going to get Steps with Rick on the TV. If you haven't seen him on YouTube, he's great. He's got all the vibes, and you just literally dance around your front room to some banging tunes and you get your steps in. And my husband walked in, he was like, what are you doing? I was like, I'm getting my steps in. And I've never used Steps with Rick before. Yeah. I've recommended him to loads of clients because they love him. But I was like, do you know what? I'm not going out for a walk because it was pissing with rain, but I will go and put some tunes on and dance around my living room.
Yeah. Love it.
Yeah.
I mean, it is. It's really having that growth mindset of just like looking for the opportunities. And again, it's, you know, so much of your life can change when you have kids, you know, like everything changes to an extent. And, you know, finding that new normal and looking for those opportunities is tough. You know, it is a difficult journey to embark on. But for me, I always just try and create like, well, what's the alternative? The alternative is either we don't prioritize our health at all and just a bottom of the list, and things will get harder and get worse, and you'll possibly like gain weight and lose your muscle mass and lose your fitness. And, you know,
and sorry to interrupt, but that is then when it just feels even harder.
Yeah.
Because you're like, this mountain is now so big for me to climb.
Versus being able to get a couple, you know, more steps than you're currently doing, and being able to do even just a few extra exercises per week and being able to maintain some strength and some muscle and prioritize you to some degree and making that a habit, even if it's very little. It just builds that muscle of looking for the opportunities, looking to be consistent. And it's tough, you know, if you were someone in the past that was like, right, I go, like Steph goes to gym Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. They're the 4 CrossFit classes that she does. And then she has, you know, Wednesday off and has the weekends. And like, that's what she does. Now, if we have kids in the future, like that's going to be, it's not going to look as perfect as that, you know, Monday through Friday every single week. Because it just can't. So, you know, it's going to be looking for different opportunities of like how you're going to get shit done.
Although I would say, and we've talked about this on the podcast before, for me, it made me be more regimented. Because before I could just be like, oh, I don't really feel like it today, I'll go tomorrow. Whereas now I'm like, I'm going today, he's in childcare today, I actually can go today. Whether I like it or not, I'm going.
Yeah.
So it did actually help me with consistency, because I know how good I feel if I am consistent, and if I wasn't rigid, I couldn't guarantee I was going to get that consistency. Yeah. But consistency is one of the things that comes up all the time, actually, though. We put out a poll on stories yesterday of like, are you a busy mum struggling with getting your health in check? What's the obstacles for you? Consistency came up loads. And it can feel a nightmare when you've got like, kids are just live curveballs. Like that's what they are. So if you've got 1 or 2 or 3 of them like in your life, life being consistent is a challenge. But one of my biggest tips would be lower your bar. And again, like we said earlier, if you've got that like exceptional perfectionist mindset in every other area of your life, it feels like failure to even say, I'm going to lower my bar. But if you say, I'm going to achieve 10,000 steps and you can't be consistent, all it does is it just destroys your morale. It's like, what's the point in even trying? If you say, I'm going to be consistent at 6,000 steps and you actually can do it. And you know what? Some days you do 8 and maybe the odd day you do 10, but you're consistent at 6. It starts to build that confidence like, hey, actually, I'm not a failure. I am consistent. And you can do 6.5 and then you could do 7.
Yeah.
But you need to bring your expectation down to something that you can actually show up for and show yourself that you can be consistent. Because I think a lot of the time it's like you've learned that you're not consistent because you've been trying to do too much.
Yeah, I mean, that's, again, this isn't just with mums. This is like what we see with like all clients, is that the bar that they set before you go into a new plan or regiment. And often sometimes the plans dictate that to an extent. So they are almost setting you up to fail. But it's like 5 workouts a week, 10,000 steps a day, really strict diet. And you go in, you've got this high level of motivation. You're like, yeah, I'm going to do this. And then 2 weeks in, you're like, I can't commit to this. It's too much. And you burn yourself out. And it's because, you know, you are trying to do too much and you think you can commit to it, but then you crash and burn, and that just consistently happens. So like one of the first things I would always ask to a new client that would come on board, whether they're a mum or not, I'd be like, what's the least that you can commit to? Because building that muscle of consistency, like you said, with 6,000 steps or a certain amount of workouts, and you know, I would always use like a fruit bowl analogy. So like I say, we've got like 3 pieces of fruit in this bowl. Each one of them represents one of your workouts. The goal by the end of the week is for the bowl to be empty. I don't care if you do Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday, Monday, Saturday, Sunday. The bowl just has to be empty at the end of the week. I don't care if it's in the morning, the evening, in the middle of the day. You've just got to empty that bowl. Like that's the promise that you're keeping to yourself. And by setting that as like expectations and getting like 100% commitment, like can you make that happen no matter what? Even if it's a workout at 9 o'clock at night, even if it's a workout at 5 a.m. And they say yes, and then we start building that muscle of consistency. That builds confidence, that builds self-belief, and you're like, oh, I can get shit done regardless of circumstance, which, like you said, having a human live curveball is necessary for that.
And I think you just touched on a key point, because the other thing that came up the most in all of the answers on the stories was time, and not having the time. And you mentioned the dreaded 5 a.m. workout there.
I also said 9 p.m. as well. Yeah.
And if you look through the answers on the stories, there was people at both ends of the spectrum. Like, I'm too exhausted at the end of a day to want to work out. Or on the flip side, I can't drag myself out of bed before the kids are up to do my workout. And there is no right answer. Yeah. However, I would say with experience of working with hundreds of women and my own experience, the mornings might feel like a suckier option, but they're more likely to succeed. And
they are, because it's you're ticking the health box off before the actual day is started. But also working out gives you energy. So you can wake up and you can feel tired and your body can feel heavy and you can feel exhausted. And sometimes it's just to say, trying to convince yourself, I'll just go and do 10 minutes. And if I feel exhausted still after 10 minutes, I'll stop. But if I feel a bit better, I'll do a bit more. I'll get the 20 minutes in or 30 minutes in or an hour in or however long you've been able to plan in. But just convincing yourself to just get through the door and get started. And the irony of exercise is like you think, oh, I'm expending all this energy, I'm going to be exhausted. But it gives you energy and you feel so much better afterwards. And again, that's going to do just wonders for not just your physical health, but your mental health for the rest of the day.
And just how you show up for the rest of the day. Like, you're going to be in a better mood because you've started with something for you and you've done something on your to-do list already before anyone else is awake. I definitely took a long time to get back into morning workouts because my son was not a sleeper. Like 4 a.m. was when he thought was time to wake up. I wasn't going to get up at 3:30. Yep. Sorry. So this is another kind of reminder that it's all in flux. Like, there's no perfect answer to everybody's life. And once you've found it, that's it. Your answer is sorted for life. But if you can try and find a way that works for a morning workout, now that is when I would choose to do it. Because he wakes up at 6:30, which is a dreamy lion. And so I can get up at 6 and that's absolutely fine. Yeah. Also, the other thing I've realised since I've been a mum, I used to look at people at the 5:30 CrossFit. I didn't look at them because I wasn't there. Yeah. But mentally look at them and be like, who the fuck gets up for a 5:30 CrossFit class. Now I'm like, do you know what? If it's got a 5 in it, it's an okay time to be awake.
How things change.
Perspective.
Yeah. I think a big one with this as well is also, if you are lucky enough to have support around you, whether that's your partner or whether it's your family, it is, being able to have those open conversations to ask for help. So like my younger sister has got a little one, and, my mum will go around just to look after her son just for 2 hours so she can go and do a CrossFit class and come back, because she just knows, she's self-aware enough to know that like her exercise and really like keeps her calm and keeps her in a good place. I guess a little bit similar to me. So, that's something that my mum wants to do for her, so she can go and prioritize that part of exercising. And they've, and again, she's lucky enough that my mum lives close enough and can get some help. But, we've seen it with loads of new mums who have been clients as well, where they've been able to have those, really open conversations with the partner. Like, hey, I've got this fruit bowl and these 3 workouts in. I need to get my workout done on Tuesday. I'm going to get up before the kids, but if the kids happen to wake up, can you get them this morning on Tuesday? Because I'm going to get my workout done. And that expectation's managed with the partner or the husband. And yeah, like on Tuesday, if the kids happen to wake up earlier, the partner sorts them out so you can still get that workout in and take it off. So yeah, I think communication around what you need and not feeling like you're being selfish for asking is a part of a healthy relationship.
Yeah, and it did come up quite a lot actually as well, the like how to have that conversation with your partner, and also the mum guilt. So it's a bit of a double-edged sword. It's like mum guilt / partner guilt, like this idea of what being a mum means and the role that you're supposed to play. For a lot of people, especially because maybe our parents' generation didn't make the time for this kind of stuff, but don't really know how it fits in, or like how to have those conversations, or how your role is supposed to also encompass this. And so mum guilt is like a huge thing that our coaches work with our clients on. And it's kind of mad, because if someone you loved said to you, I just need to take out of my week 3 hours a week to look after myself. Would you berate them? No. Yeah. You'd be like, absolutely. What can I do to support you to do that? But when we think of asking our partners for that support, or our kids to not be with us for 3 hours of the whole week, we feel awful about it. And it's something that's maybe societal, or like I said, like because our mums didn't do it, it's not something that is part of our norm. But when you make a logical assessment of it, it's actually very reasonable.
Yeah. It is, and I think it's just opening the door to having a conversation. You know what I mean? If that's you never judge a book by its cover. You don't know the dynamics of a lot of people's relationships. It can be very difficult to have those conversations, or it could be very easy. Trying to draw a line of somewhere in the middle and making it approachable, where you can have those conversations and ask. Like, it's not like you looking after your health, so you're in a physically healthy place and mentally healthy place for you and your family and your kids is a more than fair thing to be asking for. But it's it's looking for those opportunities and who you can lean on. For some people, it might be close family, it could be friends, it could be your partner. And I think trying not to, like, if your cup's empty, like, how are you going to keep pouring into your kid the best that you can, and everyone else in your family and everything else that you're trying to do, if you're just constantly at zero? It's very difficult to do. So it's tough. You're getting every heartstring pulled on, which is like the mum guilt, asking other people, feeling selfish. But then on the other side of it, like if you even listen to something like a podcast like this, the awareness that your health does matter, and you don't want to be at zero. So it's trying to manage all of that at the same time. And I think probably some of the best advice I could give to people is just not to judge yourself too harshly in those situations when you will inevitably get it wrong. But just still looking for the next opportunity.
Yeah, and also taking that something is better than nothing mindset into this particular question. It doesn't have to be, okay, well, I need to make 3 hours a week to go to the gym. It could be, I need to find 3 sessions across the week where I can work out. If that means I stick my kids in front of the TV, okay, well, 3 times a week, then I'm going to do that. Even if you're someone who doesn't like them watching TV, there's a balance here. If it's like, well, I'm going to have to take them out to the garage and they're going to come with me and sit in their playpen whilst I do it. That's what they're going to do. They're not going to die. Like, they can be bored for half an hour. Or, do you know what? They'll see you and they'll think, hey, it's normal that mums work out, and then they won't have this struggle.
Yeah.
So it's like breaking the patterns, but it's also figuring out, like you've said a few times, what is going to work for you now in the moment of the life that you're in. And it doesn't have to mean asking for someone to do childcare for a whole hour so you can leave the house. Like, there are other ways around it.
Yeah, definitely. We've shared lots of things on Instagram of like mums having the baby strapped to the back while doing a Peloton class, you know, and you get like mixed reviews in the comments of like, well, mums should be able to get an hour to themselves. And it's like, well, yeah, but like sometimes they can't. And again, it is that mindset of just like, I'm emptying that fruit bowl every week.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's like, if I can get help and support, great. If I can't, I'm making it happen anyway.
And actually, do you know what? There's so many groups out there that are set up for this. So where I live, there's a mum's fitness class where you can take your kids with you. And everybody knows it's a bit chaotic. You're not going to get a full hour's workout in because you're spending 20 minutes of it, like making sure your kid doesn't kill himself with the dumbbells or hit another child over the head. But you went and you did something, and actually you get to see other people and connect with other people, and there's so much more to it than that. And wherever you are, there's probably something. And I would urge you, even if you're someone who's like, oh, I'm not going to get that much of a workout out of this, is to just look at it as a wider benefit to you and to your child. Because going along and doing that something and moving your body and having the like motivation of being in a group, actually maybe that means you do more than if you were just hoping for the perfect opportunity to arise at home.
Yeah, definitely. And I think especially with kids as well, and just like with all, but more so with kids, there are just seasons, you know what I mean? Like having an infant to a toddler and to a teenager is all very different. They are just like seasons of life, and just being able to manage your expectations through each season of that is super important, you know what I mean? Because it will look different at different seasons.
And we should talk about older kids, because actually what tends to happen, so you get through the toddler phase where you're like, oh, someone literally needs to sit with them or they'll kill themselves. And then you get to like 5, 6, 7 plus, when actually they've got their own things that they now do in your free time. And so your free time is now driving around, taking them to their activities, and you're pouring all your time and your energy and your money into taking them to sports. So there's still no time for you. And so what can you do in those situations? And I've had so many clients that say, oh yeah, I take my son to basketball practice and then I sit in the car for an hour whilst I wait for him and I read a book. I'm like, right, there's an hour. There's a whole hour where you are not responsible for a small person. Let's use it. Like, literally had mums like going up and down the bleachers, or like go and do a lap of the track, or just go for a walk. Like these pockets of time exist no matter where you are in which season of being a parent, but it's getting a bit creative with them. And sometimes it takes someone as an outsider to look into your life to be able to see it. But maybe like a best friend could do it. Maybe your partner could do it. But there will be pockets where you can carve out time.
100%. And again, it's just looking for them. Like I've had clients who've been like walking up and down the football pitch, you know what I mean? Just to be like, hey, I've got an extra 2,000 steps in. Great. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You managed to watch the game and get some extra steps in, you know, win. So it's just, again, it's just really trying to be creative around that, because otherwise, like the alternative is like you don't do anything and you just end up in the same position that you are. And if there's other opportunities that mean that you can just stand on the side of the football pitch and watch, and you can get it in. Again, it's just a balance, and what that balance needs to look like for you. Some people's lives are busier than others, and some people have more responsibility than others. But again, it's really always just not trying to point the finger of like, well, it's easier for her or easier for him. It's just like, what can you do? Yeah,
definitely. So we've talked a lot about the exercise side of things, but we all know that's only a small part, like a really, really small part actually. And for most people, the struggle is more around like the planning, the meal prepping, the avoiding kids' snacks, the picky eaters, like the food.
Yeah.
So shall we hit some of the big questions we get around food?
Yeah.
The first one is like literally just having the headspace to even think about like, right, what is a healthy diet for me? What do I even need to buy? What meals am I going to make? What meals am I going to make that my kids will also eat? Or am I going to have to make 2 meals? Like that headspace alone is enough for someone to just like, do you know what? I can't deal with that right now.
Yeah.
Because that's like a big task to try and figure out. So what would your advice be to someone who's like at that very beginning point?
It's very much like I think meal prepping's huge because it just allows you to get ahead. But being able to just like have a plan going into the week. So you know what I mean? I think it's always the case of like if you can carve out some specific time to think about the week ahead and take a lot of those decisions out. I don't know, maybe Si can pull this up for us. I don't know how many decisions we typically make in a day, but there is such a thing as decision fatigue. And those decisions are probably getting ramped up when you've got children or kids because there's, again, probably more surprising things cropping up. So if you're able to carve out like, hey, this is what we're going to get for shopping this week, these are the meals that we're going to make, and you can preemptively make those decisions in a dedicated time, it means when you come to your nutritional habits Monday through Friday or through the week, it's already been taken care of. What's this?
Sorry, the Harvard Business Review says that we make 33 to 35,000 decisions a day. No wonder we get decision fatigue.
Yeah. Sounds like, I mean...
The majority of decisions are made intuitively, relying on your gut feelings. I mean, I guess it's because you don't decide, am I going to stand up with my left leg or my right leg first? You just get up. I think they're counting things like that, but still. Yeah. I
mean, like most of us all put our pants on the same way each day and brush our teeth with the same hand and so on and so forth. But again, just like the way you have got these habits of like how you'll get dressed, how you brush the teeth, maybe how you wash yourself in the shower, so on and so forth. If you can actually get it to be as subconsciously easy to make healthy nutritional habits, like that is the game where it just becomes effortless to stay healthy with the food side of things. So yes, things have got to change with kids, but like you are in charge of the household. You are in charge of like what the kids are going to be eating to an extent. So being able to create some order and structure around that, like you do have the power to do that. It's just going to look a little bit new to begin with.
Yeah, and I also think this is another area where lowering the bar is really helpful because especially in the world of social media, you see all these beautiful meals and people's Instagram feeds of like these meal plans where everything's got avocado and seeds sprinkled on it and like looks like a masterpiece. Nobody's got time for that in real life. Like you just literally need a piece of salmon, some new potatoes and some broccoli. Like it's boring. Yes, it's boring. But for now, just work with it. And as you get into a rhythm and you like find your feet, okay, maybe we're going to add some harissa sauce next week. Maybe we're going to mix up the potatoes next week. But just start with something super basic.
Are you ready to lose 30 to 60 pounds in under 6 months without restrictive diets, countless hours exercising, or any guesswork? Well, we help women over 30 do exactly that. Lose weight guaranteed. And 5 to 10 pounds a month is the average weight loss. And that's not a cherry pick statistic. That is the average. Your weight loss results are 100% guaranteed. You will lose unwanted body fat. So apply at bodysmartfitness.com. That's bodysmartfitness.com, but only if you're a woman over 30 and want to lose 30 to 60 pounds.
Yeah, I mean, that's every time like one of my friends has had a baby, one of the things that we've just like done for them in the first like couple of weeks is like go and give them like pre-cooked food. Like we've made the food ourselves and put it in Tupperware so they can just like freeze it because it's like, we know the first couple of weeks they're just going to be like crazy. So just like you having like 20 prep meals in the freezer is just going to feel like a bit of a lifesaver.
You are a very good friend.
It makes a difference, doesn't it? Like that's like, sometimes you're just like, I'm starving and you're just being pulled and dragged. But like, I think that can still be the case as just like a normal adult sometimes if you haven't got your shit together with your food. And then you bring kids into the mix as well. So definitely, we use HelloFresh and like that just comes like it's a portion of 4 and you can get it for kid size portions and stuff as well. And I think I've probably had the most variety in my diet since doing that. Super easy to do. All the instructions are there. All the food comes. There's no waste. I'm like a flipping advert for HelloFresh here.
I'm the same for Gusto.
Yeah. So
we're balanced.
Yeah. So it's just it just keeps it very. So like you said, like it takes the decisions out of it to an extent.
Yeah.
And you've got your meals done, and we actually we just cook for me and Steph, but we get it for 4 people. So every time we cook, we get 4 meals, and we always put 2 in the fridge, and we can have them the next day for dinner or for lunch. Yeah. And again, it's just ease, and you're getting lots of different food as well.
So I actually a couple of months ago was like, I could do with having a bit more of certain things in my diet because we've been having Gusto now for like 3 or 4 years. Which I don't think they have in America, but it's like the same as HelloFresh. The concept's the same. So I'm going to go back to like meal planning on a Sunday, going through my recipe books. I literally got about 20 minutes in. I was like, nah, give me the Gusto app. It's just so overwhelming. And that's to somebody who loves food. I've got the time, I've got the knowledge. But I was like, why? When I can have like this narrowed down list of recipes.
Yep.
So normally I just go on there and I filter for like, they've got like a healthy meal section, and then you can choose by like 10 minutes or 20 minutes or how long you want it to take to cook.
Yep.
I don't look at any other sections. And so I've got a choice. I need to pick 4 or 5 a week. I've got a choice of like 20 meals. Whereas if you're trying to plan your meals from nothing, you've got like the whole internet worth of ideas. Yep. It's just too much.
And you get a lot of waste as well. I mean, and it also saves the time of, I mean, you still obviously need to go to the shops. And I guess that's another thing that we could talk about is like, yeah, that removes a lot of the decisions, which you're probably making a lot more with a new child or just children in general. So it helps. But then, yeah, so it can take away a lot of decisions around food. There's not as much waste. You know what you're getting. You know, it can be a certain amount of calories or a certain amount of protein. So, you know, you're able to hit more of your nutritional needs. And then like little things again, like saving time, like my parents and Steph have been a bit against this, but every now and then when we're super busy, which is like just doing online shopping, you know, having your shopping delivered to you.
I don't go to the shops.
Yeah.
I hate going to the shops. It's such a waste of time.
Yeah. Yeah. But like a lot of people do have a fixed mindset of like, I have to go to the shops, or I want to go and get the fresh fruit, or I want to go and pick the fresh meat. But you know, if that's what you prefer to do, then maybe on weeks where you've got a little bit more time, that can be a luxury that you can go and do that. But on the times that you haven't, that an hour maybe to drive to shops, pick what you want, get back, that could have been a walk, could have been a workout. So again, it's just a balance of and a season to just accept like, hey, maybe that can be something you can go back to in the future.
Yeah, definitely. So we have got to the point where we can maybe plan some meals, keep them simple. The other thing is you don't need to have like a reinvent the wheel every week. If you figure out a meal plan that like hits your nutritional needs, the kids will eat it, just have it every week for a bit. And then, like I said before, you can tweak things. You can change the vegetables you have with it. You can add a different sauce.
Yeah.
But like keep that framework the same. You don't need to complicate your life for no reason.
Well, you know the question that you get back here, which I'll give to you, which is like, well, what happens if I like cook for my husband and then I need to cook for me and I need to cook for the kids? Like,
yeah.
And there's like 4 different meals or 3 different meals getting cooked at the same time.
I do hear that a lot. I don't have the patience for it in my house. So what I do tend to do is I know there's some stuff, like if we're having something that's particularly spicy, I'll just like get some of the raw ingredients. Like say I'm making a curry or something, I'll like pick some of the bits out and put them in a separate pot for Nate to have. But I'll still make the same meal, just less spices. Or I'll chop things into different size pieces for him because he likes little small tiny squares of pepper but not big strips of pepper. Fine.
Yeah.
But we're having the same food. I'm not cooking like loads of different meals. And I will acknowledge I've always done that. So it's not something that he's going to suddenly kick off at because mum's changing the rules.
Yeah.
Whereas if he was 8 and he'd always had whatever he wanted and I had always had something else, you're going to have a bit of a negotiation period, shall we say.
Yeah.
But actually, it's doing your kids a favour, like teaching them to have a more wider variety in their diet, showing them like mummy's looking after her own health and eating these foods because this is high in protein and protein is the building blocks for making me big and strong. And like these vegetables give me these vitamins for these reasons. Actually, they need to know that. And the more you can teach them young, in my opinion, the greater they have got a benefit later on in life because they don't have to learn all this when they're an adult. Yeah. It's just, they know it.
That's sometimes people will look up and be like, oh, why does Sally never gain weight? Or why does, Richie always he's just got a fast metabolism? And often when you look at a lot of these people who quote unquote have a fast metabolism or never seem to gain weight, often they've had really good childhood habits around food. They stop eating when they're full. They eat mainly whole foods. They have a predominantly active lifestyle and do a lot of steps and maybe exercise regularly. And even if they don't, you can still look at the behaviors as a whole and be like, right, it balances out from an energy balance side of things. So yeah, I think for most of the women listening, if you've struggled with your weight and your diet for your whole life, and you can give this gift to your child, which is to educate them around their bodies and nutrition, like that's going to be a problem they never struggle with. They're going to be one of those people, in the mid-20s that you see, that's in great shape, that is healthy, that manages the food and doesn't even think about it. Just like the way we said about brushing your teeth, they don't even think about it. They want to go out for food, they go out for food and eat dinner. They don't stress about food. It's like you can actually give that to them, but it does start probably with more difficult conversations as soon as you can.
It is one of those things that I think is a common theme of parenting. Like you have to choose, do I want to deal with the difficult now or down the road? Because it's literally every decision you make as a parent is like, I could give my kid the screen now and he will sit quietly and let me brush his hair, but then he's going to have a tantrum when I take the screen away.
Yeah.
Or I could just have a bit of a moan whilst I brush his hair. Like you have to pick all the time. Like when do I want the difficult? And this is one of those where actually, if you really weigh out the cost benefits of the down the line benefit of having these conversations now, it's a no-brainer, but it does feel difficult. And so if you have got children who are maybe picky eaters or have been having like a high fat, high processed diet, and you'd like everybody now to start eating a better diet, then a fake away is a great way to do that. So doing things like making your own chicken nuggets in inverted commas that like literally just dip them in egg and breadcrumbs, chicken strips, and put them in the air fryer. Air fryers are amazing. If you haven't got one as a mum, you need to get one in your life. But there's so many things that you can make a healthier version of. And actually, it's also part of what we teach our clients when they're learning to cook for themselves is there's so many things that in our heads we're told we can't have because it's unhealthy. Actually, if you break it down to the component parts and you made it yourself at home,
it's very different.
It's not that bad. Like, you want to have a burger. Actually, a homemade burger
super high in protein.
Is a pretty good choice.
Yeah.
You want to have chicken strips and wedges. Also, pretty good choice.
If you homemade it.
If you homemade it.
Yeah.
And so if you've got these things that you know your kids love, it can be a real kind of way in to say to them, hey, we're going to make it together. That's another great tip is, especially when they're a bit younger, maybe not when they're teens, but when they're a bit younger, it's like a fun thing to get in the kitchen and get messy, and you have to embrace the mess. My husband's very surprised at how much I embrace the mess, but it's because I believe in this bit so much. But you know, like we make pizzas or we make omelette together or whatever. There's egg everywhere. But that then gets them bought into it and they're like, oh, I made it. Okay, I want to eat it. And it can be pizza. It can be chicken and wedges. It can be burgers. It can be all the things that you know they already like. Yeah. And then that can start to change their mindset as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's a fantastic skill to have as well. And like an independent skill to have, you know what I mean? To start like teaching your kids, like this is what healthy eating looks like, but also what healthy cooking looks like as well. And being able to make those home cooked meals. That is definitely something that is lacking in like just today as a whole is people are just not cooking food at home enough. And there's just, whether it's what the food's cooked in when you eat out or the amount of calories that's in it or the lack of nutrients, it's definitely something that we need to bring back a lot more, which is home cooking. Absolutely. I can't remember the stats. I looked it up for an episode a while back, but the amount of food eaten out of the home in the US, I want to say it's gone from like 15% to nearly 40% of calories consumed over the last 30, 40 years. So one of my friends from Liverpool who now lives in Georgia, we went and seeing him and he said they eat out a lot. And he said the main reason why is like it's actually cheaper to eat out than it is sometimes to cook some of this healthy food at home, which is, again, there's always this like cost element of it as well. And you can definitely go to the supermarket and make healthy food at a cheaper cost. You've just got to sometimes get a bit more creative and look a little bit more around for like what you're buying. But, you know, going and eating out 4 or 5 times a week when you're having 1,500 calorie meal, 2,000 calorie meal and the rest can take a dent in your health. So yes, there may be a financial cost, but there'll then end up being another cost later down the line to your health as a whole. Yeah, absolutely. So when it comes back to that kind of like cooking 3 different meals or picky eaters, the other thing that I always suggest to clients who've got picky eaters, and also, you know, maybe you've got like neurodivergent kids or other reasons or people who have got allergies in the family, is to try and make meals that have different component parts and you put everything in the middle of the table and people can pick what they want. It's also a really good way for you to feel in control of your portions without you feeling like you're on a diet food and everyone's got other food. So if, for example, I don't know if the Americans and Canadians would be familiar with Jamie Oliver.
I don't know if he's big over there.
Yeah.
He's quite a big chef over
Yeah.
here, but like I call it like Jaymie style food, where just everything's on the table on like a big wooden board and a big bowl of salad and like something else on the side, and everyone just portions up their own food. But it means you can go and you could get a bigger piece of protein for you and like an extra portion of salad for you and maybe a small bit of carbs if that's what your macro mix needs. But then say your husband, who's Jamie's build, needs double the amount and needs more carbs because he's got a very manual job. He can get all that on his plate. The kids can pick the bits they want, but you haven't had to make all these different meals. Yep. And actually it's a very sociable way of doing it as well. So maybe changing the way you cook can be helpful too, especially if you tend to do like one pot meals or you plate everyone's food up and then get frustrated because they leave half of it. That kind of approach would be worth trying.
Yeah. For me, the big part, again, is just taking it back to home cooking and just like, again, like you said, social time around the table, eating as a family, definitely all very positive things to do for your overall health and the nutritional side of things. But yeah, like whether it's using HelloFresh, whether it's changing the way you cook, I think it's just stepping into the uncomfortableness of the unknown. Like this is new. You know what I mean? And just being okay with failing and be like, oh, that really didn't go to plan with, cooking tonight or the next night or the night after, but you're going to keep trying. I'm like, that worked, and it's just like, okay, let's try this again. And then again, it's just like looking for and that can feel when you're exhausted, really, really difficult to do. But it's just, yeah, it's really just, it's just looking to find something that's going to work that's better than the current situation that you're in.
And on that note, when you are exhausted, it's okay sometimes to be like, do you know what, everyone, we're just having eggs on toast. Like, it's fine. Like, it doesn't have to be a masterpiece every day. And the basic things like a baked potato with tuna or eggs on toast, like there are very, very basic things that are pretty much crowd pleasers. They're pretty good nutritionally balanced, that can be your backups, that you can just go, quick. I have no time, no mental energy left today. We're just having that. Yeah. That's fine.
Mm-hmm. I think another one here, because you are talking about a lot of stuff that is like whole foods. And again, I'm going to ask Si if he can pull something up, but I think it's 80% of kids' foods now in the UK is 80% is processed or ultra processed foods. So, that would more alleviate the fact that most people are buying the frozen chicken nuggets, the frozen chips, the frozen meals or these kids' meals that can just be like in the microwave for X amount of time or in the oven for X amount of time and then just given to them. And yeah, everything that we've spoke about on this podcast like several times of like how bad ultra processed foods are for you at that level, if it is as high as 80%, it's going to slow down your metabolism. It's going to make you hungrier. It's not going to it's going to
affect your mood.
Yeah, it's going to affect your mood. There's more sugar, more salt.
Yeah.
So there's like lots of real negatives to that. And again, everything that we're talking about here of like the kids seeing mum make the time to cook healthy food or the parents to cook healthy food or make that a priority. Again, you're instilling those really healthy habits into the kids as well.
Yeah, and you can still make it really convenient. So I use these giant ice cube trays so Nate's 2, but he eats a lot. So he has 2 big ice cubes when I make leftovers. So I'll make like a bolognese, a risotto, a chili, a curry. Sorry, so I just got this up. Yeah, people in the US and UK consume more than half their calories in the day from ultra processed foods.
Wow. Yeah, so research suggests somewhere between 60 and 90% is the standard American diet. Yeah, I mean it's not surprising.
It's high.
It is, because convenience is king. And
it is.
That feels like even more prevalent when you feel like you've got less time, which like this is a common theme of anyone who has kids. It's like, I used to think I didn't have time when I had kids, and now I'm like, no, I really don't have time. So again, it's like being able to develop some of these habits pre-kids makes, to an extent, can make it easier, or having that education. But then again, like, just being able to start to bring some of that into your lifestyle now is going to be a net positive.
Yeah, so what I was getting at was batch cooking. If you haven't embraced it and you're a busy mum with no time, you need to embrace it. Yeah. Because it can just literally replace ready meals. So most nights Nate has a freezer meal, but it's my food. It's like home cooked food. I just pop out 2 ice cubes worth of chili or whatever, cook some fresh rice or even some microwave rice, which takes 2 minutes. So his whole meal takes 4 minutes, but I know it's a well-balanced homemade food. It just requires that pre-planning and pre-cooking. But what we tend to do is like we have the gusto, and if it's something that he's already eaten that day or whatever, I'll freeze his portion. Or like at the weekend we had friends round and we made risotto, chicken risotto. So I just doubled the recipe for whatever we needed with our friends and froze the rest into these ice cubes. And I've just literally got one whole freezer of my drawer is ice cubes worth of random food. But you know what? That's what we are going to the supermarket to buy.
Yeah.
So if you've identified it's because I don't have the time on a busy weeknight, there are workarounds and you can definitely do this. Things like the slow cooker is your friend. Slow
cooker's amazing. Yeah. The amount of mums I've spoke to of like just a slow, because they just, before they go to work in the day, just throw everything in the slow cooker, come back and it's like everyone's dinner's taken care of.
And on the other end of the spectrum, an Instant Pot or a pressure cooker is also amazing. So I'd always been a slow cooker devotee, and then I got a Ninja, which is an air fryer, which is also a pressure cooker. And it kind of just freaked me out for a bit because I was like, I don't really understand it. It kind of seems like it might explode. I don't want to scold myself.
Yeah.
But then I was like, I should probably explore what this does. Oh my God. So what you can make in a slow cooker in 8 hours, you can make in a pressure cooker in like 30 minutes.
Wow.
Yeah. And like the meat falls apart, the veg is perfectly cooked. So on a weekend, you can literally bash out like 3 things in a couple of hours, have an absolutely packed freezer,
and you're good to go.
And the week's done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which, if you think about like just like that, like, and it's not like 3 hours straight of cooking, right?
No,
it's like it's probably broken up a little bit, but it's something that you could do on like a Sunday afternoon. But then the amount of time and mental energy you would save through the week is just obnoxious. Like any time I've had, I mean, I'm talking when I used to really sort of meal prep, which is like I used to work like 3 jobs back to back and have like no time. So I would always spend like a couple hours on the Sunday just like prepping every meal for the week, because I was like, I literally haven't got time to think or stop about this, because I was very on it with like hitting calories and hitting macros back then. But I would just go into the week and I'd be like, right, I just have to follow sort of the plan or the food that I've got. And if there was other opportunities to eat out or something like that, I would. But it just made it so effortless going into. I mean, I used to get to the point where I would like have every outfit laid out for the week, so I would know like what clothes I'm wearing Monday through Friday. I mean, it's just done. You know what I mean? I've just got to kind of get up and go and operate. And yeah, you just, it's just seasons. It's just seasons of life, and I think you just have to be. Which is no one is. I think most people I've spoke to say they're comfortable with change and have changes come, and then it's like people are not comfortable with it. Like you're not, and I think maybe just having that expectation, like you're not going to be comfortable. Like it is going to be hard at times, but you're going to keep trying your best anyway. I think that's a really positive mindset.
You're going to be much more set for success if you expect this to be a little bit tricky.
Yeah.
Because it is learning a whole new skill set and changing the way you live your life, really. If you want to get different outcomes, you have to do things differently, right?
Yeah.
So the other things that people said were tricky with kids and food was leftovers. And this is one that is like a stealth weight loss killer. So often we have this like cheat sheet that we give our clients called the bites, licks and tastes that add up. And you go through it and it's like, oh yeah, I do forget to put the creamer in my coffee on my MyFitnessPal. Oh yeah, I do forget to put the like handful of granola in or whatever, and the handful of cheese when I'm cooking. And then it gets to the kids' leftovers. Yep. And it's like, oh, 1 chicken nugget off that kid's plate. Oh, a couple of fries off that kid's plate. Half an apple. Oh, a little bit of yogurt left over here. You've had a whole meal. Yeah. Before you know it, you've literally had like 300 calories.
Or more.
And in your mind, you've just had little picky bits. Or actually, you haven't even thought. It hasn't even gone in your mind because it's been, whilst you were tidying away, it just popped in there. It didn't even register that you ate it. Yeah. And then you get to the end of the week and you haven't lost any weight. And you don't understand why, because you've eaten your healthy meals, you've done all your meal prep, you've done all the things, but you've also eaten 300 calories extra every day from leftovers.
Yeah. Yeah, you have to be super aware of this, especially even like when you call, like this is something Steph used to religiously do. Was she was working in A&E in the hospital, so the like just lunch got skipped all the time, and then would come back and be starving and start cooking dinner. And while she was cooking dinner, we'd eat nearly like 1,000 calories on like snacks and pieces of ham and make some toast and something else. And And then like if you were doing that and then giving the kids meals and then you're feeding the kids first before yourself and then you're eating their food or their leftovers food and then you're eventually sitting down and having your food yourself. Like that was like a reason. Like she started gaining weight and didn't realize. And then we put all the calories in to MyFitnessPal that she was having while cooking it. And it was more than the actual meal. So it's like it will happen. Like there's no doubt about that. Like, you know, you'll probably just be really hungry at times and probably eat the kids' leftovers. But like, again, if it becomes I think you notice this with yourself, if it becomes a habit and then you start to see it's affecting your weight or affecting how you're feeling, then it's something to be, you know, sort of addressed. So for Steph, we just made a point of like, she was having a lunch in the hospital, but we'd be like, right, you take your lunch with you. And if you don't get to have it through the day because it's so busy, when you get back to the car, before you drive back, eat your lunch, drive home, you'll get home, food is digested, you'll feel full, and then you can, you know, crack on with your evening. So again, it's just ideally, yes, she'd have a lunch, but you know.
That's actually what I have to do because I am not a 3 meals and a snack kind of person. The gaps between meals are just too long for me. So I am a 4 meals person. And conveniently or inconveniently, one of those meals is around like a kid's tea time, like 4 or 5 o'clock. So what I've ended up doing is having my second lunch, I call it, at like 3 o'clock. So by the time I'm sorting his dinner out, I'm not hungry. I've had like a decent meal. And for me, literally, it's such a game changer to have 4 meals instead of snacks because you actually eat something proper like protein, some vegetables, something that's going to actually fill you up. And then that sees me through till I'll have dinner. Maybe if Reese is on late, it's like we'll have dinner at like 7 or 8. Otherwise, it's just you're battling your willpower and you are eventually going to break.
Yeah. And also, I think it's breaking that mindset because I've said that to like a lot of clients in the past, which is like, yeah, just have a 4th meal. And they're like, I can't eat 4 meals. Like that's way too much. And it's like, you will eat more calories and snacks if you don't. Like that's typically what we would see happen is just like, oh, you're just trying to fight your hunger. And it's like having a 400 calorie meal that's balanced and satiating is going to be much better than just going, oh, I'll just have a 200 calorie snack and then another 200 calorie snack and then
and also way easier to hit your protein goals, get enough vegetables in, because the thing that people often struggle with protein is 3 meals at 25 to 30 grams is still not going to get you there. 4 meals at 25 to 30 grams,
much easier.
Boom. Yeah. So top tip, have 4 meals. And that also ties in with the other thing that people raise, which is like kids' snacks. So you go out for the day, you've got a bag full of snacks for the kids. You pick them up after swimming, you've got snacks for the kids. How do you avoid having the kids' snacks? For me, I take snacks for me too. And like I have, if it's a time that I know I'm going to be hungry, I plan for that and I'll take something that I know that I will eat that works for me. But also the snacks that he has, if I have a rice cake and a banana, which is what he's having, I mean, that's okay. Like I don't have an issue with the fact I've had a rice cake and a banana. I'm not taking him packets of sweets or crisps or...
I think that's not typically what people are saying. It's like, oh, we're going out and we're taking munchie bars and chocolate and sweets and all, everything else. But it's like, nobody ever likes it, but like the kid isn't going and buying those foods or those snacks or treats and then taking them out. And then if your kid is demanding like you take them out, it's like who's the boss here? Who's in charge? Like who's buying the food? Like you can choose to take carrots and hummus and bananas and rice cakes and fruit out. If kids hungry. People are hungry. They'll eat what they're given. And like again, you get to choose what's happening there. If you're the person that's taken out and is taking all that chocolate, well, yeah, you're just increasing the temptation for yourself as well. And then you're also, we're not, everyone knows who listens to this, we're not like, you can't eat chocolate, or you can't do this. But it's like, yeah, it doesn't need to be the snacks that you take out every single time.
It's also, if we go back to what we were saying earlier about giving your kids the gift of like good nutritional knowledge and good nutrition themselves, if we think about 80-20 balance, actually 20% of their food coming from things like chocolate and sweets and stuff, it probably wouldn't fit to give them snacks out and all that, as well as whatever they might be having in their meals and maybe like the odd dessert at home as well. So when you start to level everything out, maybe you're moving towards that 80% whole foods with them, there are going to be tantrums, there is going to be pushback, but it's for like a week or two. And you have just got to battle through and be like, look, this is different. but let's just go with it. There isn't any more of those things in the house. You can't lie. You literally have to throw them in the bin. And some people get really funny about throwing food in the bin. I get it. I was raised in a household where if you don't eat what's on your plate, you sit there and you eat it, or you have it for breakfast. But you have to just get it out of your house. Give it to neighbors. Throw it away.
Yeah.
Because they are smart. Kids are smart. They'll be like, yes, it is, Mum. It's behind that box. They will. So you literally got to get rid of it. Even so, my son doesn't have those kind of things, but like raisins are his kryptonite.
Yeah.
He'll be like, more raisins, Mummy. They're all gone. No, they're not. He's 2.
Yeah.
I'm like, yes, they are. He's like, they're in the cupboard. I'm like, oh. He knows.
Yeah.
So you've got to you can try lying. I'm terrible at lying. But you just got to get rid of it and just be like, there isn't that. There is this, or this. And just hold your ground.
Just conditioning the behavior, aren't you? You know, if you continue to take those foods out, you continue to feed your kids those foods, that just becomes a habit and an expectation. So yeah, like there will be, if you're looking to make a change, there is obviously going to be a period of time that's going to be conflict, to say the least. But then it will eventually just become the new norm, and like that's what it is.
So that's snacks. I think that was all the questions that we had around food. We've talked about consistency. We've talked about time. We haven't talked about the just brain-numbing exhaustion.
Yeah,
which is all-consuming. And I think whether you've got a newborn or you've got an older kid, I don't know when you get over the exhaustion. I need somebody to message in and tell us, is it like age 12, 15? Because I feel like it's a different level of exhaustion when I speak to my friends with older kids, where it's like the mental exhaustion of worrying about them being bullied at school, or they've got exams, or their friendship groups being mean to them, or they're going to go on their first overseas trip, and like it's a whole nother level of different stuff. So I don't even know when it ends.
Well, maybe this isn't the best news. My mum says it never ends. She's like, you're 32 and I still worry about you every day. And I'm like, why? You know what I mean? And she's like, I think my 3 sisters phone my mum every day. Like I'll speak to my mum like once or twice a week and try and see her. But she's like, yeah, I still like worry about all of you every day. And I'm like, why? I'm like, I'm doing all right, aren't I? You know, like things are okay. So yeah, I mean, I think it's seasons, isn't it? And obviously, like there's loads of different ups and downs and timelines as kids are growing up. But it's I don't know, it's part of it, right?
It is, and like I guess that's the point. It isn't going anywhere, so you've got to learn how to manage it. And one of the great things, actually, we had Coach Luke on a couple of weeks ago, and he said, think of workouts as energy builders, not something that you need to find the energy to do. And so if you can start to think of your workouts as energy builders and your food as energy givers, actually it flips all of this on its head. Because if you're so exhausted, this isn't another thing that's going to drain you even further. This is a thing that's going to help fight back.
Yeah.
And it's such a key mindset shift to make for yourself. Yes, at the beginning, because it's new and you got to learn stuff, you got to change stuff. It is more work. It is hard, and it will feel more exhausting for a little while, like a week or 2 or 3 or 4. But after that, you are going to have more energy. You're going to feel like you're getting better sleep. You're going to feel like your days are easier. You just got to get through that first bit.
Yeah, this is so like, and I always see energy as time. Like, you know, like you know, there's that whole idea like, oh, we all have 24 hours in a day, and it's like, well, not necessarily. Like people who have got more responsibilities, I've got less time, and especially less time for themselves. But if you're exhausted, like permanently exhausted, you have the mental capacity and less energy than somebody who isn't. So if you can start to move towards somebody that has more energy, you will, as a proxy, feel like you have more time, or you're able to get more done. And we've got like countless, you know, these Trustpilot reviews of busy mums and busy professionals, and being like, I used to always have the excuse in my mind, I don't have the time. But like, since I've been here, I've been able to do, you know, get my steps in, prep my food, do my workouts, show up in my career, have more time with my kids, and I still feel like I've got time.
I would have started a master's.
Yeah, and it's just like what? And it's so like the proxy of like having these energy builders. It gives you vitality. It gives you youthfulness, because you just have that energy. Like when you are making these poor nutritional choices, not working out, not going for a walk, not taking that time, you just feel sluggish. You're dead. I can't be bothered. I'll do it tomorrow. Like these are the type of things that'll come out because you just don't have it. Versus, and like that really does just compound over the weeks and months and years.
And actually, you forget what not feeling like that is like.
Yeah.
If you even knew before, because if you've never really been into fitness and you've never really paid that much attention to your diet, you probably don't even know what feeling energetic, jumping out of bed and wanting to go and work out feels like.
Definitely. And I think it, like, even just speaking about this, it can feel like a tall mountain to climb, but this is why we have like the huge philosophy that's on the water bottles that we have of getting 1% better. You know, everyone's like, can you commit to getting 1% better today? I'm like, 99% of people I've spoken to have said yes. I think you've got to be in a really, really low fragile place to say no to 1%. But you do that for a year and you're 37% better.
37 times.
37 times better, sorry. So that's considerable. You know what I mean? If your nutritional choices are 37 times better in a year, if your movement habits are 37 times better in a year, you are just by proxy a healthier person. So taking those steps today, for you, for your kids, for your family, is an empowering one that you can take, and it's 1%. Like one change on the food plate, one extra conscious effort to have a conversation, to get more movement in or go for a walk. It's just a little opportunities, and just consistently doing that over time. And I still get the all or nothing tendencies and the perfection. Like I really get it. Like I notice the behavior for myself, and I'm like, ugh. And I just have to just dial it back sometimes and go, I just can't commit to that right now. But if I just do less, but able to keep doing consistent, I will win anyway. You know what I mean? Or I will get to where I need to go anyway. It just may take a little bit longer, which is so difficult because we want everything yesterday.
Yeah. I think that's a really nice one to end on there as well, because a lot of what we talked about is trying to manage this change in the context of being part of a family unit, and actually saying to your family overnight, we're going to all start eating healthy, we're going to all start being active. You are going to meet resistance. Whereas if you stealthily get it in there 1% better every day, you change one thing on their plate, you maybe just put a bit less sauce on whatever they're having, or you add some vegetables. Before they know it, before you know it, in a few months, you will have succeeded. They won't have even noticed.
Yeah.
So 1% better for the win.
1% better.